Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.
I just want people to understand what it does to a family.
She lost her 41-year-old brother to COVID-19, but says some people still aren't getting it.
That evening, I put together a group of stitchers.
An idea hatched 5 weeks ago explodes into a gift for frontliners nationwide.
The foundation for making this work is good testing.
A bipartisan government watchdog group examines reopening plans.
My skin is irritated. I'm having fine pimples. My skin is scarring.
Help for the helpers on the front lines. One woman's mission.
Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha Williams.
And I'm Andre Moreau. Much more on those top stories in a moment on this week's edition of SWI. But first, the Archdiocese of New Orleans filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Court records show the filing took place just after midnight Thursday.
In a statement, Archbishop Gregory Amen said the move was necessitated by the growing financial strain caused by litigation stemming from decades-old incidents of clergy abuse as well as ongoing budget challenges and was compounded by the coronavirus pandemic.
Amen says it will affect administrative offices, but not schools or individual church parishes. We'll keep our eyes on this story. Now we'll look at other stories making news across the state. 2 parishes are bucking the governor's continued coronavirus order by letting churches and other businesses open their doors to more people today, May 1st. Leaders from LaSalle and East Feliciana say they will limit occupancy to 25% and observe the 6-foot social distancing recommendation. The week began big with news we didn't want to hear. The governor extended the core of the stay-at-home order until May 16th because, in short, he said the numbers showed we just weren't ready. The governor said, if we don't meet the criteria, I'm not going to pretend we're better off than we are. For much of the state, there are now some slight new freedoms, though. Restaurant owners can now open outdoor tables for those picking up orders so they can stay and eat, but no waitstaff service. Mall stores and other retailers have begun to offer curbside service with social distancing orders intact. For New Orleans, no. The state's epicenter of the virus remains in its strict stay-at-home order until at least May 16th. Data shows a nursing home in reserve for veterans has one of the state's deadliest coronavirus clusters. In the last month alone, authorities say 43 people perished at Southeast Louisiana Veterans Home. Half of them COVID-19 victims. When the outbreak began, the home had about 150 veterans. The Advocate newspaper reports that number is now 96. It's been on lockdown for more than a month. The death of 2 guards at the Immigration Detention Center in the Richwood Correctional Center in Moreau is raising new questions. How well is the federal government protecting the 30,000 immigrants in custody and the staff guarding them? Relatives of both 62-year-old Carl Leonard and 51-year-old Stanton Johnson say at one point, facility leaders prevented them from wearing masks as the virus spread on site. Layoffs from oil and gas companies in the state are growing amid a massive downturn. About 600 workers were already let go or expected to be in the coming months. That from the State Workforce Commission. And it includes 350 from 3 plants in Port Allen owned by Turner Industries. Louisiana voters will have more early voting time and expanded mail-in balloting options in the July and August elections because of the coronavirus outbreak. State lawmakers approved that plan and voted by email and fax. A mix of Democrats and Republicans are backing it. Though analysis shows Louisiana has flattened the curve in most of the coronavirus cases, the numbers, they are still staggering.
As of today, we have 28,711 cases of the disease. 1,927 have died and 1,607 remain hospitalized. As we already mentioned, the governor was somber at the first media briefing of the week when he extended the stay-at-home orders.
But at the White House Wednesday with the president, he seemed more upbeat, saying Trump's commitment to deliver 200,000 tests a month to the state would be sufficient to start phasing in that reopening, likely in mid-May.
We've obviously turned the corner in Louisiana. We're in a much, much better place than we thought was even possible 5 or 6 weeks ago, I will tell you. And that's because of our local partners and our federal partners and hard work. We've had a lot of lessons to learn because there's no blueprint for this. There's a blueprint for testing now, but there's no blueprint for a governor. How do you respond to a pandemic? So we've had a steep learning curve, but I will tell you we're in a much better place. The field medical stations that you provided, the Navy medical personnel that you sent to Louisiana, the testing that we had early was the key, and that has informed our testing strategy going forward. And we're excited about the opportunity to have the test kits that we need allocated starting in the month of May to get to the 200,000. We'll do 43 persons per 1,000. That's what we're going to get to in Louisiana, and we're going to be in much better shape after that, Mr. President. We look forward to getting past this, returning to a newer sense of normalcy, which I don't think will come officially and fully until we get the vaccine. But we're looking forward to moving. We're looking forward to moving ahead, and just appreciate your work and your contributions to our efforts. It's been very helpful.
Well, it's an honor working with you.
Thank
and
you,
the
sir.
people of Louisiana. Great people. They've really gone through a lot.
Well, I'll just say they're the best.
I'll tell you what, they're right there. I agree. They're great people.
So in Washington, you had the president praising our Democrat governor's response to the coronavirus ordeal. But back home, some GOP leaders have lost patience with Edwards, and they're thinking about an emergency step to override his orders. The Public Affairs Research Council of Louisiana has outlined key questions it feels the state must consider when the reopening begins to get business going again. I talked with PAR President Robert Travis Scott.
The fact is that we just don't meet the criteria. And that is why today I'm announcing that we'll be extending the stay-at-home order.
There was such disappointment in the governor's voice, you could tell, that he really would have liked to begun some of the reopening, but the numbers did not add up for him.
The state as a whole was doing pretty well, was starting to show the good trends that we're looking for. But there are regions of the state that aren't doing well. And I think this was a bit of a curveball for everybody to try to comprehend. The foundation for making this work is good testing. And I think what we've seen from the state so far is very specific goals of what they want to achieve with the testing, a really ramped up program to produce in-state, both in the private sector and the public sector, enough testing and testing services to make this work. Now, they don't have the numbers that they need, but they think they can ramp up and reach their targets.
What do you say about the job that you feel the governor is doing?
I think the governor is fully aware that wherever you go in the state, there are people with different views on this. Now, even if we were to open up the economy fully right now, that doesn't mean everybody would get right back to work. You'd have a lot of people who would be reluctant to do that. You'd have your elderly and those with compromised health conditions who would still probably be staying at home, trying to avoid public contact. I think just individuals and businesses on their own would exercise a lot of controls, even if you completely reopened up tomorrow. So I think one of the things we're looking at right now are all the benchmarks that the state wants to take. And what the administration has been doing here has been sort of following the White House guidance based on the CDC recommendations. So what we want to see as citizens is, what are those trend lines? Show us explicitly what those are, now not only for the state, but for each region, so that we can understand how our actions as citizens and as business people are affecting these trend lines, and therefore affecting our ability to get back to work and get back closer to normal. Rebooting the economy, one of the key things that we've seen is getting the healthcare community back to work. The healthcare community, probably more than any other, understands how to run a sanitary workplace and can probably be in the best position to take the steps to make sure that patients can come in and that the professionals there are able to be safe. And what we've done this week is we've taken another step to opening up the healthcare business in the state. Healthcare business is big business. It employs a lot of people. It's an absolutely enormous part of our economy. I'm hopeful that a lot of this economic resurgence, the reopening, if you will be led by the healthcare system, the healthcare businesses in the state.
PAR has created the COVID-19 resources portal. You can find it on their website, parlouisiana.org. By the way, the legislature returns to the Capitol first of next week.
He was only 41 years old and left behind 11 children. Roderick Martinez got sick in mid-March and kept getting worse, but it took 3 trips to the emergency room before he got a test for the coronavirus. He was admitted, but within days he was dead. His sister has a message she hopes will help save others from the same fate.
So basically, he had to go 3 different times before he actually got the diagnosis that he needed.
Yes, ma'am. And it wasn't until the Thursday, the morning that he passed away, that we found out at about 10. When I spoke with the nurse, we got the positive test result. And then it was later in that evening, around 9:41, I believe was his time of death.
Jalyne Landry recounts just how quickly her 41-year-old brother, Roderick Martinez, lost his battle with COVID-19, the multiple trips to the emergency room, misdiagnosis, and his death all in a matter of 10 days. The father of 11 children was engaged to be married. He did suffer from high blood pressure, but his sister says because at the time many things about the coronavirus were still coming out, they didn't know he was at a greater risk to catch it and die from it.
The things that we were hearing about were like respiratory issues, diabetes. He had none of those things. He was obese. We found out later that was one of the underlying things. Obesity contributes to complications. Something that we learned that COVID-19 does affect kidney function. When he went into the hospital, his kidneys were functioning fine, and that was something that rapidly decline for him was his kidney function. And he passed away after his first round of dialysis. He handled the dialysis fine, I was told. And then about 30 minutes after he finished that 4 to 5 hour session, everything just started going downhill for him.
Landry says her brother's loss should be a wake-up call, especially for the African-American community, which only makes up about 32% of Louisiana's population, but so far are about 70% of the people who die from coronavirus.
I made a public post probably at about 5:30 that Thursday after we got the confirmation, and we shared it with family and his children. And I just wanted to put a face to the pandemic crisis. I wanted people to know it's real, it's here. So for us, we're from a very small community, St. Martin Parish. He's from Breaux, we're from Breaux. So I wanted people to see, because my brother loves social media. He loves, doing live videos. He was just a real fun, loving person. So he knew a lot of people, and I wanted them to see this is serious. And for the probably within that first week, people seemed as if they were getting it. And then a few days later, it was back to the same old routine of gatherings and parties. So I still don't think we're at a place where it's being taken as serious.
Jalyne has his final thought about her brother and his death from COVID-19, one she hopes will get the message across.
But I just want people to understand what it does to a family, because we couldn't go and sit with him, hold his hand during his final moments. You see the Facebook stories of families that are able to, have a Zoom meeting and be able to see their loved one, in their final moments. That's not our story. We didn't get that opportunity to officially say goodbye. Because it was still so new when he passed away, I believe he might have been one of the first deaths for St. Martin Parish.
Mm-hmm.
The protocol, he had to be cremated. we couldn't even see his body. We couldn't see him at the hospital. We couldn't see him at the morgue. That was it. We retrieved his things, some of his items that he went into the hospital with, and that was it. We were given the option for a private graveside service, no more than 10 people. That was impossible because he has 10 kids, so it would have been just his kids, not including the rest of the family. So we've had to postpone giving his children, my mother, the closure that they need. So it's kind of every day that, we're unable to really celebrate his life. It's this lingering heartache. So I don't think this is something anyone would want to experience in their family. And if that's where you are and this isn't something that you want to experience, then take the necessary precautions and stay home.
Roderick's family is still not sure how he got the virus. His sister says he was practicing social distancing, and that's just one more reason everyone should still take the pandemic very seriously, acting as if everyone has it, and always wear a mask in public places. They are on the front lines in the war against COVID-19, and while they protect themselves from the deadly virus, their skin sometimes takes a beating. A local skincare expert wants to do something about that. Zonda Barnes says she has just what they need.
Baton Rouge native Zonda Barnes has been a skincare expert for nearly 20 years.
I want you to experience healthy skin, happy skin, well skin, nourished skin, and that is the one thing that I can, as an esthetician for over 18 years, I can help solve that problem.
Her business, like others in Louisiana and across the country, have been shuttered as we fight the global COVID-19 pandemic.
Being stuck at home, watching the news, watching the media, I was like, there's a need. And when I noticed that the stories started populating about facial issues, skin issues with wearing the PPE, the personal equipment, which is the mask, I said, wow, I can address this issue. So I thought, and I said, let me make a plan. I came up with a plan. And I said that I wanted to give these frontliners, these essential workers, products to help this specific issue with their skin.
Issues like these, irritations, breakouts, and dryness, their faces often telling the story of their struggle, a struggle brought on by hours and hours of wearing masks and shields every single day of their shift. The fight being waged on those front lines taking its toll in many ways. The PPE meant to protect them from the coronavirus, now wreaking havoc on their skin.
I want to be able to give them some relief. And that relief is going to come in very specifically through skincare products that's going to help soothe, address, protect, and correct the issues that they're having.
Barnes will give $30,000 of her skincare line, Just Clean Skincare, to those fighting the good fight, those making sacrifices every day they report to work.
It's all about self-care. You cannot continue to give to others until you take care of yourself. You got to come first. So in order for you to continue to help being a frontliner, being an essential worker, you're out there on the front line, you're doing everything that you can, you're risking your life, you're away from your family. You have to take care of yourself first, because my mom and my aunt worked at Our Lady of the Lake in housekeeping. So not just the doctors and not just the nurses. We want to make certain that housekeeping, janitorial, those that take out the trash, those that cook in the kitchen, they all deserve the same level of care.
Barnes says she's always wanted to give back to her state, to her community.
When Katrina happened, I had in my head, wow, back then, I wanted to just, make certain that everybody could have clean skin, like a facial. That's what I wanted to do. Back then, I didn't have the capacity to do it. But today, with this pandemic, I have the capacity to give away thousands of dollars of products. And that is what I'm going to do.
Her giveaway will help hundreds of workers, but she wants to do more.
What I have right now, I can serve up to 600 individuals. And I know that's just a drop in the bucket. So if you're interested, or if you have a family member that's on the front line and they're crying and they're complaining about their skin, and it's quite natural, because if your skin is irritated, that's something to cry about. That's something to be a little upset about if it's irritated and it's bothering you, and you have to place that mask back on top of that irritation. Come on, that's something that needs to be addressed.
To help Zonda Barnes help those folks battling skin issues while fighting the coronavirus, you can email her at the address you see on your screen.
So many needs have emerged with this crisis, and we've seen so many stories of giving. Like one group from Baton Rouge, they recently mobilized to get personal supplies to young women in Kenya and Cambodia. And they're doing it again, supplying thousands of masks to people, as it turns out, nationwide. Mary Kay Carlton runs her Baton Rouge CPA firm the same way she runs her life, always looking out for her clients. Always looking to help a cause or help someone. In the coronavirus world, there's no shortage of that. So, like always,
Mary Kay, you saw a need and you acted.
I initially located some N95 masks at my office after hearing all the buzz about them. And on the first day of quarantine, I texted my primary care physician at the Baton Rouge General Health and asked him if they would accept an open box of N95 masks, and he texted back and said, absolutely, we'll take anything you have.
She arranged a delivery of those, but was already thinking much bigger. You see, she just read about a woman in Washington state sewing cloth masks with the demand soaring. But in checking with her doctor, he said, no, we don't need those yet. We're okay.
This was at 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday.
By 5 that afternoon, things had changed completely, and her doctor friend sent a frantic text.
We do need some now. And so I texted back and said, great, how many? And he said, I don't want to be greedy. How about 500? And so that evening, I put together a group of stitchers.
Stitchers, known as the Spirited Stitchers, friends from her church, First United Methodist.
I quickly did a little research and realized that it was something that was probably very needed.
Margaret Tyler and her daughter Caroline are the leaders of the group, and Margaret is no casual stitcher. She's a professional seamstress, had her own business for 24 years, creating a line of clothes for the popular American Girl doll. Her creations are all over Pinterest and the internet. Mary Kay knew Margaret had the equipment and the connections to take on what could be a pretty big job.
So the very next morning, we tapped into a supply of fabric that I already had, and we started cutting out masks.
Their calls to other stitchers basically went viral, and in days their army of helpers was growing.
So many people started contacting us and saying, I want to help with that.
My mom's phone kept blowing up, like so many messages were coming in. We were like, okay, who's this person? Who's this person? Like looking at the phone numbers.
The need for masks kept growing. Anyone or any business who got wind of the Spirited Stitchers, now numbering close to 100 volunteers, was calling. Caroline Tyler set up an operating system with social distancing practices built in.
People arrive to our house, they come up our front porch, and they can pick up a bag, a sewing kit right here.
From supply pickups to mask drop-offs, the home has become a mask-making factory, supplying the nation as far away as Alaska.
We're giving away these masks. They're free. So we feel like it's our mission to do this.
And the way that we got other people involved, so we have one friend that she can sew, but her neighbor literally next door cannot sew. So Miss Judy would have Miss Maureen cut elastic for her.
I'm making these masks for the California National Guard. I can show you how quickly I can make one.
How did the arrangement to send them to the California National Guard, how did that happen?
As a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, they have a Facebook page that puts out requests.
The Guard requested 40,000, so DAR members nationwide are producing them. Margaret cut out 795 of that order herself.
We're honored to do it, and I think Caroline would say too, you know, in a time like this, everybody feels like they need to do something. Mm-hmm.
And boy, are they ever doing something, making so far 14,000 masks and counting.
That is awesome, Andre. What a way to give back.
Aren't they amazing?
Today, we are proud to announce the 6 high school students being recognized by LPB as this year's Louisiana Young Heroes. Now in its 25th year, LPB's Young Heroes program celebrates the achievements of students who've inspired those around them and have devoted their time, talents, and energy to making their communities better places.
Here are this year's Louisiana Young Heroes. They are Anthony Chasson, a 10th grader at Catholic High School in Baton Rouge; Lillian Dejean, 12th grader, homeschooled in Lafayette; Claire Holder, a 12th grader at St. Joseph's Academy in Baton Rouge; Caleb Lewis, 12th grader at North Lake Christian School in Covington; Riley Mars, 10th grader at Leesville High School in Leesville; Garrett Sanders, a 12th grader at Hammond High School, Hammond High Magnet School.
The Louisiana Young Heroes program is being presented by this year with the generous support of the Propane Dealers of Louisiana, with additional sponsorship by the Hancock Whitney Bank, Community Coffee, Demco, and Hotel Indigo. The Young Heroes and their families will be honored on Louisiana Young Heroes Day later this year. Congratulations to you all.
There was a big thank you for healthcare workers and first responders, and it had them looking up at our blue skies today.
That's right. This is the roof deck of the Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Center in Baton Rouge just after 12 noon. The crowd gathered to take in the salute from the 2 B-52 bombers and 2 F-15s. There you go.
They're watching to see, and they see them here. Louisiana Air National Guard and U.S. Air Force, their way of saying thank you to all those on the front lines leading in the fight against COVID-19. The 159th Fighter Wing of the State National Guard joining the Air Force Reserve's 2nd Bomb Wing.
Flying all over South Louisiana and notably New Orleans and Baton Rouge, and especially both cities' hospitals.
How about that? Well, that is our show for this week, everyone. Remember, you can watch anything LPB anytime with our app.
Download it for free from your app store. This upgraded version features news, public affairs, documentaries, how-tos, and many more programs. And please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
For all of us at Louisiana Public Broadcasting, I'm Andre Moreau.
And I'm Natasha Williams. Thanks for watching. We leave you now with a mini concert for the residents of St. James Place in Baton Rouge.
Now, from a very safe distance, 2 members of the Baton Rouge Symphony Orchestra, Borislava Ilcheva and Aaron Farrell, performed outside on the lawn, and it brightened the day of the many St. James residents. Good night, everyone.
Entergy is proud to support programming on LPB and greener practices that preserve Louisiana.
The goal of our environmental and sustainability initiatives really is to ensure that our kids and future generations can be left with a cleaner planet.
Additional support provided by the Fred B. and Ruth B. Ziegler Foundation and the Ziegler Art Museum located in Jennings City Hall. The museum focuses on emerging Louisiana artists and is an historical and cultural center for Southwest Louisiana. And the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting, with support from viewers like you.